Hi there, today we're going to look at how we set up a NexStar SE series telescope. Okay, now we're going to demonstrate how to set the NexStar SE series telescope up, and for this we're going to be using a tracer battery, which is a lithium polymer battery. It's a new product, and what it allows us to do is power the telescope for about 7 hours just from something that thankfully fits in the size of your hand. We use a little cable first of all to adapt that for a cigar lighter socket, which is the standard sort of connection most power tanks have, and this just sits right there on the accessory tray. Your regular cigar lighter cable plugs into the socket there, and the other end, of course, straight into the base of the telescope. So here we are with the NexStar SE at the main menu when you first turn it on, and what it's saying here is NexStar SE, press enter to begin alignment. That's exactly what we'll do. Now this offers us a number of different methods of alignment, the most obvious being SkyAlign, which is the method that's advertised on the box and is that patented 3-star alignment that Celestron is famous for. We've also got a few other options, various 2-star aligns, a 1-star align if you're really desperate and short on stars, solar system alignment, which allows you to align on just a planet, an EQ North and EQ South align, which are for if the telescope has been mounted equatorially. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. The beauty of this telescope is it doesn't need any kind of special mounting. So SkyAlign is what we're going to go with. And then asks us to select one out of custom site and city database. Now if you happen to live in a major city, you can use the city database, but you're always going to get a more accurate alignment if you select custom site and put in your coordinates, which you can usually find on just about any smartphone. Now I've got my smartphone over here, and I can see from it that my longitude is 0 degrees, so I'm going to just put 3 zeros at the beginning, then 14 minutes, and finally 10 seconds. Now do be careful when you're putting in your coordinates that you're finding them in degrees, minutes and seconds, and not in a decimal, because if you're in a decimal you need to convert them into degrees, minutes and seconds first. The smartphones usually display them this way. It'll also prompt me as to whether or not the longitude is east or west. I'm going for west. If your coordinates come out with a minus sign, that means west. Secondly, we need to enter in the latitude. So our latitude here in London is 51 degrees and 28 minutes and 38 seconds. And when we press enter, it then prompts us for north or south. Of course we're north of the equator, so we're going to press north, or press enter for north should I say. Next it's going to ask us for the time, and you take the time straight from your watch. Now the time here at the moment is 13:58, and I never worry about the seconds because chances are your watch isn't that accurate anyway. It then asks us whether we want daylight saving or standard time. Now we can select either one of these. Standard time is what we call winter time in this country, and daylight saving is British summertime. So of course on this beautiful June day we'll be selecting daylight saving time. It asks us also for our time zone, and it will come up initially with Pacific USA. Again you're going to want to change that of course because we're here in England, so we're just going to reduce that down until we get to universal time, and universal time is what the Americans call Greenwich Mean Time. Finally it asks us for the date, and the date needs to be put in American format too of course, so we're thinking June the 27th rather than 27th of June, so 0627 and of course the year 13, and press enter. At this point the telescope is telling us we need to use the following screens to select the 3 bright stars that the telescope's going to use for alignment, and for that we're going to move the camera back a little so you can see it operating. Okay, so now what we're going to do is align our telescope on the 3 bright stars using this SkyAlign method. So we'll take the hand controller in our hand because it's a lot easier that way. But before we start, what we need to remember is that we need to have our finder scope aligned to the main telescope optical tube. And the way we do that is we point the main telescope optical tube manually somewhere where we've got a nice long view, maybe half a mile away, that we can then see something that's on the ground. So perhaps a television aerial, or maybe a big window that's hopefully a long way away, you don't want to get in trouble with your neighbours, or perhaps even a chimney pot. Once you've got that main optical tube lined up on that and you can see it in the eyepiece, you're then going to go to the finder scope where you're going to turn it on using the little wheel on the right just there, and that's going to give you a red flashing dot or a red constant dot depending on the model of telescope, which you can then line up on that same object. And with the finder scope here, you've got two little alignment wheels, one at the back here which moves it up and down, and one at the front on the right hand side here which moves it left and right. And so with that, what you want to make sure of is that you get that red dot on exactly the same thing that the main telescope is pointed at. If you can't see a red dot in your finder scope, it's because the battery, which is under a little cover here, has probably run out already, so you need to get that replaced. Anyhow, once you've got that and that's aligned, it's time to use the screens on the hand controller here in order to align your telescope. So first of all, you're going to press enter to continue, to start the alignment. At that point it will tell you to center object 1, and so we're going to spin it around a little bit until we get to a star. Now of course I'm doing this in the daytime, so there are no stars, so we're just going to have to pretend. But you can use the buttons on the hand controller here to control the telescope, and all you want to do is get it somewhere near a nice bright star. And the way you do that is you look up through the red dot finder, and once you've got the red dot on the star, you're ready to go. And you press enter, and at that point you're looking down the eyepiece. Now assuming you aligned your finder scope with the rest of the telescope, the object that you just centered on should be sitting in the eyepiece now ready for you. And what you'll do is you'll look down the eyepiece there and you'll press these buttons again, and this time when I press it you can see it doesn't appear to be moving. Well, it actually is, it's just moving very slowly. And the idea of this is to allow you just to tickle the object into the center of the eyepiece. Once you've done that, you press align. Now you do that same procedure twice more. So it's asking me now to center object 2, and I always recommend you go a good sort of 45 to 90 degrees away from object 1 for the second object. So find yourself another nice bright star, preferably one that's either higher or lower than the one that you just had, so you're not just moving in one dimension, but you want to go. And again, we're looking up the red dot finder here normally now, and we're making sure that once we've got the red dot on the object, that's how we want it, and we press enter. And now we look down the eyepiece, and again you're fine tuning it in the center of the eyepiece and pressing align. And finally we've got to do object number 3. So once again, center the object using the red dot finder and press enter. Then fine align the object in the eyepiece and press align. So if you listen correctly, that was center, enter, align, align. Now you'll get a screen that says sky align, please wait. Now inevitably the telescope has to think a little bit to work out what the stars are that you just found, and generally speaking, if you do it during the day, you're not going to get the message that I've just got, which is match confirmed. Normally it'll just say align failed. But this telescope believes it's actually found 3 objects, so either I was very, very lucky, or these are 3 really strange objects. We're going to press enter to accept that match was confirmed, and it thinks a little bit, and then it says align success, and prompts us with another little message too, which is star pointer off. Now that's not to tell us the star pointer is off, that's to remind us it runs on its own battery, so you need to turn it off in order to save battery, otherwise you'll be replacing that before you next go out, or getting very frustrated when it doesn't work. Anyway, once you're aligned, the menu here goes back to just saying NexStar SE, and that's your cue to now use the telescope to find any of the 38,000 objects that's stored in the hand controller. And the way you do that is you select broadly your type of object on the hand controller, and numbers 1, 2 and 3 correspond to the solar system, the stars and deep sky objects. So we're going to go with solar system because that's dead easy, so we'll press number 1, and you can see now it's come up solar system, and on our screen here it says Mercury. So we'll scroll down through, we've got Venus, Mars, Jupiter. We're going to go for Jupiter, so we press enter on that, and the telescope is now running around locating Jupiter for us, and it's going to plant it dead center in the center of the eyepiece. At least if I'd aligned at night it would have done. So it's off there now. Now this hand controller is able to identify objects not only in the solar system but also in the deep sky, and there we're talking about star clusters, galaxies, nebulae, all sorts of other bits and pieces that you might be interested in looking at, and of course a whole lot of interesting stars. Some stars have particular different colour spectrums, and there's all sorts of really interesting double stars and things like that that are well worth having a look at. Finally, you've got a number 5 button on here, which is really useful because it allows you to find objects even if you haven't got a clue what's in the sky on a particular given night. So press 5 for the sky tour and it's going to recommend a list of objects for you which you can look at. Well, the telescopes are lined up on Jupiter now, and in theory if it were dark and we'd aligned it properly, you'd be able to see Jupiter in the eyepiece. As it's not, I'm just going to show you that very simply if we want to find another object, we hit back until it says Next Star SE, and then we just use the menu to navigate to another object. I'm going to go for the sky tour, so I go for tour there and it says M110, that's Messier 110. That's a little tiny galaxy just off the side of Messier 31, which is Andromeda. I don't really fancy that, so I'm able to scroll with these buttons to whatever else I might want to look at, and here it's offering me the Andromeda galaxy proper. I'm going to go with that, and again just press enter and off it goes to find it. So that's your NexStar SE series telescope. We've been using a 5 SE today, and as I say, the NexStar 6 SE and NexStar 8 SE are very, very similar and entirely the same in operation. They just have different size optical tubes. The NexStar 4 SE has got a slightly different optical tube, which means that this diagonal part is incorporated into the tube. But other than that, the operation of the instrument is exactly the same.